Well, it is the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize, all set to be announced in the next 5 minutes in Oslo, Norway. There is huge speculation swirling around Donald Trump, the US president, who has been repeatedly claiming for the last many months that he deserves the award for ending as many as 8 global conflicts, including the announcement made yesterday that Israel and Hamas have agreed to phase 1 of the 20-point peace plan. We also have the live footage that's coming in from Oslo of the main Royal Center, where the announcement will happen in the next few minutes. Whether or not Trump gets, it's going to be a matter of huge interest, not just in the United States, but here in India as well, because one of the contentions that Trump has been talking about for a number of months now, ever since Operation Sindoor happened, was that he ended the India-Pakistan war. He's been claiming that he's ended 8 global conflicts, including the announcement yesterday of the war between Israel and Hamas coming to an end and a 20-point peace plan being unveiled. These are the live visuals. In a few minutes, in exactly 5 minutes, you will see members of the Norwegian Nobel Peace Prize Committee, 5 members. They will be walking out from that door, and the head of that committee will announce to the world who the winner of the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize is. Trump, of course, is the person of interest. He is the one on whose name there is huge amounts of speculation. But there are 338 nominees this time around. That is a huge number. It is not just individuals, but there are organizations as well. I think about 94 organizations have been named there as well. So 338 of them. There are 5 members of this Norwegian Peace Committee who are, of course, members of the Norwegian Parliament. They're appointed by the Norwegian Parliament. I just want to go through who they are. It's Jørgen Watne Freidnes. He is the chairman of the committee. He was appointed in 2021. His term continues till 2026. Asle Toje, who's the vice chair, member since 2018, reappointed again in 2024. Anne Enger, who is a member since 2018 and has been renominated again in 2021. Kristen Clement, appointed in 2021, and Gry Larsen, who was appointed again in 2024. So these are the 5 members. They're all members of Parliament, of the Norwegian Parliament, the Storting, which is the body which has the authority to appoint the 5 members who will choose the criteria. Now, who can be nominated? Like I said, there are more than 300 nominees this time around. The people who have to be nominated, there is a deadline for submitting the nominations, which is January 31, 2025. So Trump would have been in office barely 10 days. He was sworn into office on the 20th of January, so barely 10 days. So that is one of the factors that is working against Donald Trump. Whether or not that is a factor that will ultimately aid or, whether it will abet his chances, we'll have to wait and see. In 2.5 minutes, we will have the people coming out of the Norwegian Peace Committee. They will come out and they will announce to the world who is the winner of the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize. So the cutoff is one of the deadlines. The other issue, of course, is that only certain people and categories are allowed to nominate. That includes heads of state, ministers, members of National Assembly and government, members of certain international courts, professors, academics, and of course past laureates. And you've seen a number of prominent past laureates. The Dalai Lama was a winner in the past. Mother Teresa was a winner in the past. Malala Yousafzai and Kailash Satyarthi, both of them were joint winners in the past. Barack Obama, the former US president, was awarded very early in his term in 2009, and that's a controversial one because Trump keeps insisting that Obama achieved nothing, and yet he was given the Nobel Peace Prize. Does Trump stand a chance? Well, if you were to look at his record, at least in the last 8 or 9 months that he's been in office, certainly he stands a chance. He claims that he has ended 8 wars, including Armenia and Azerbaijan, India and Pakistan, and of course the latest one, which is Israel and Hamas. But all of this has happened post the 31st of January, which is the deadline for the Norwegian Nobel Peace Committee. If he's not given it, of course, you can expect Trump to, make a huge hue and cry about it, whine about it. He has been talking about this ad nauseum as we are counting down last 1 minute. Our Sanjay Suri is also joining us live from London. So expectations, at least certainly in the Trump administration, in the White House, is that Donald Trump will be the winner of the Peace Prize 2025. Like I said, he's been repeatedly talking about being shortchanged for the Peace Prize. He spoke about it last night as well, when he was with the Finnish president. The Finnish prime minister, in fact, was an official guest at the White House yesterday, and he even made it a point that, they may not give it to him, because of whatever reasons, but he says no one deserves the prize more than him. So in the next 20 seconds, you will have members of the Norwegian committee, the Peace Committee, who will come out, headed by Orgen Watne Freidnes, who is the chair of the Norwegian Peace Committee, who will come out and will announce to the world who the winner of the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize is. Let's go straight to those pictures from the Norwegian Peace Committee, where the members will walk out of that door any moment now and will announce the winner of the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize.
The Nobel Peace Prize for 2025 goes to a brave and committed champion of peace, to a woman who keeps the flame of democracy burning amidst a growing darkness. The Norwegian Nobel Committee has decided to award the Nobel Peace Prize for 2025 to Maria Corina Machado. She is receiving the Nobel Peace Prize for her tireless work promoting democratic rights for the people of Venezuela and for her struggle to achieve a just and peaceful transition from dictatorship to democracy. As the leader of the democratic forces in Venezuela, Maria Corina Machado is one of the most extraordinary examples of civilian courage in Latin America in recent times. Ms. Machado has been a key unifying figure in a political opposition that was once deeply divided, an opposition that found common ground in the demand for free election and representative government. This is precisely what lies at the heart of democracy, our shared willingness to defend the principles of popular rule, even though we disagree. At a time when democracy is under threat, it is more important than ever to defend this common ground. Venezuela has evolved from a relatively democratic and prosperous country to a brutal and authoritarian state that is now suffering a humanitarian and economic crisis. Most Venezuelans live in deep poverty, even as the few at the top enrich themselves. The violent machinery of the state is directed against its own population. Nearly 8 million people have left the country. The opposition has been systematically suppressed by means of election rigging, legal prosecution, and imprisonment. Venezuela's authoritarian regime makes political work extremely dangerous. As the founder of Sumate, an organization devoted to democratic development, Ms. Machado stood up for free and fair elections more than 20 years ago. As she said, it was a choice of ballots over bullets. In political office and in her service to organizations since then, Ms. Machado has spoken out for judicial independence, human rights, and popular representation. She has spent years working for the freedom of the Venezuelan people. Ahead of the election of 2024, Ms. Machado was the opposition's presidential candidate, but the regime blocked her candidacy. She then backed the representative of a different party, Edmundo González Urrutia, in the election. Hundreds of thousands of volunteers mobilized across political divides. They were trained as election observers to ensure a transparent and fair election. Despite the risk of harassment, arrest, and torture, citizens across the country held watch over the polling stations. They made sure the final tallies were documented before the regime could destroy ballots and lie about the outcome. The efforts of the collective opposition, both before and during the election, were innovative and brave, peaceful and democratic. The opposition received international support when its leaders publicized the vote counts that had been collected from the country's election districts, showing that the opposition had won by a clear margin. But the regime refused to accept the election result and clung to power. Democracy is a precondition for lasting peace. However, we live in a world where democracy is in retreat, where more and more authoritarian regimes are challenging norms and resorting to violence. The Venezuelan regime's rigid hold on power and its repression of its population are not unique in the world. We see the same trends globally. Rule of law abused by those in control. Free media silenced.
The winner of the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize is Maria Corina Machado, who is the Venezuelan opposition leader, has been waging a lonely struggle for the better part of more than 10 years now against the authoritarian regime of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. She's, of course, been contesting elections, tried to contest elections for a number of years now. She, in fact, joined active politics in 2012. She was elected as a member of the Venezuelan National Assembly back in 2011. She entered politics back in 2002, and for the last 20 plus years, she has been taking on the authoritarian regime, first of Hugo Chavez, and then subsequently from 2013 onwards, the regime of the current president, Nicolas Maduro. In fact, she was also listed as one of the most influential women in the world, most influential 100 women in the world by BBC, as well as Time magazine earlier. She's, of course, one of the leading lights. Just even last year, when there was the Venezuelan election, the main opposition candidate was disqualified. That candidate was supposed to be the one that was the consensus candidate decided by her. So she has been waving the flag of democracy and human rights and civil rights in Venezuela for the better part of the last 20 years. I want to go across to our Sanjay Suri. So for Donald Trump, it's heartbreak. Once again, disappointment, some would reckon. But this was unexpected line, Sanjay, that the deadline on January 31, 2025, and Trump really didn't have much to speak of in those 10 days that he was in office. But how do you think he's going to react? Because he's been talking about this for a number of months now.
Well, certainly Trump, as we know, is not shy of speaking of his own virtues and of his immense qualifications for this job. But Machado clearly is the natural and the correct choice. There's no doubt about that. In fact, she has made common cause, in a sense, with Trump against Maduro, but that will be no consolation to Trump. For Trump, it was to be him. That is the issue of the technicality, the 31st January deadline that you point to. But there is more to this. For a start, the very active campaign that Trump launched on his own behalf perhaps didn't quite work for him, because we've had members of the Nobel Committee saying they don't like this sort of thing. They don't like promotional campaigns for that award. Besides, there are other questions. The Gaza Accord is just about getting into place. We don't know whether this peace is going to hold and it's going to last. There are fears and misgivings on all sides, so perhaps too early on that front. And besides, there have been a couple of other matters that could be in the way and would have stood in the way, perhaps. The bombing of Iran and the nuclear facility there, then the attacks on the boats coming out of Venezuela are not exactly qualifications for a Nobel Peace Prize, and no doubt those considerations would have weighed upon the committee as well.
I also want to go across to Ambassador Sajjan Har, who's joining us. It's an interesting choice because she has been the face of the political opposition in Venezuela for at least the last couple of decades. And it comes at an interesting time, Ambassador, because the Trump administration has been attacking these Venezuelan drug boats. They've declared Maduro as a narco-terrorist, the head of a narco-drug cartel. And Machado has been talking in recent times that her life is under threat. She's virtually in hiding. In fact, her candidate last year in the elections last year had to be changed. Another candidate was added, and of course, elections were rigged there in Venezuela at a time when it seems like the United States might be going to war with Venezuela. The fact that the main opposition leader there has been given the Nobel Peace Prize, what do you make of it, and what do you think Trump will now say to this decision?
Yeah, thank you very much, Zaka. I think Trump is going to be livid. He is going to be livid with rage because I think not only Trump himself, but the whole White House has really been building up, to the announcement of the Nobel Peace Prize. And this will come as a very rude shock as far as Trump is concerned. I think it will not be a rude shock to the world in general because people did not, as you said correctly, people did not expect that Trump will be, given this Nobel Peace Prize. Not only, what Sanjay has said in terms of his very active promotion of himself and all the other reasons about, his bombing the boats, carrying allegedly carrying drugs to Venezuela or bombing in Iran. But his otherwise, the fact that as far as all the multilateral institutions are concerned, he has shown scant respect and regard for those. His move out of climate change, and as far as the Scandinavian countries are concerned, green energy is something very, very dear to them in terms of climate control, environmental protection. That is something very close to them. So, for all these reasons, I don't think any right thinking person would have expected that that Trump would be able to get it. But then he has gone on and on ad nauseum about this. And anyone who's deserving, I think the world should stand up and applaud for him rather than he himself saying this. As far as the
Okay.
Gaza peace plan is concerned, if he'd hinged his hopes on that, Zaka, he did have a Gaza peace plan in January. Just before he came, you would recall, on 19th of January, there was a ceasefire and there was exchange of some hostages. But that was supposed to be a three-phase peace plan and it went nowhere.